can start.
Yeah. I mean, I am audible, right? You guys can hear me. I said
Ah,
you can
yes.
start whenever you're ready. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Bismillah. Assalamualaikum and a very good day to Mr. Speaker, honorable panel of adjudicators, accurate timekeeper, fellow teammates and opponents. Also everyone in this debate. The motion, this house supports online schooling in Malaysia even after COVID-19 is over. The government side will truly propose to today's debate with our stance. Digitalizing education is the root of modernization and civilization. Standing as Prime Minister, my rules is simple, which first, I will be doing characterization and tailor this motion to where this debate should be and introduce one argument from our side. My Deputy Prime Minister here will rebut the lies and misconceptions provided by the Leader of Opposition, as well as providing another argument to strengthen our wall of defense. Lastly, my whip speaker over there will clear all the loopholes coming from the opposition side, as well as providing of the debate to prove to you as to why this debate should go to side government. So, first, the burden we would like to push for the side of government is why online schooling is beneficial for the progression of our students, and secondly, why digital awareness is important for a more progressive world. And also, the burden we are claiming from the opposition to prove today is why is there a dire need to get rid of online schooling after COVID-19 is over? And now I will start my characterization of this motion. Starting simple. Um, there are a few keywords that I would like to define. So the first keyword is support, the second is online schooling, and the third is after COVID 19 is over. So the first keyword, support, it literally means encourage online schooling, which means to learn virtually through a screen anywhere and anytime. And after COVID 19 means once the pandemic ends, where many people have been vaccinated and the COVID 19 cases are at an all time low. And to make it sound clearer, this debate is about um, us encouraging students to learn virtually through a screen anywhere and anytime, even once the pandemic ends, where many people have been vaccinated and the COVID 19 cases are at an all time low. Okay. Um, the status quo of this debate is that Malaysia is ranked in the top 51 countries in terms of Google Classroom usage, which means that Malaysia is ready for online learning, and because students and educators have already got the hang of using online apps, and this gives students a good a new alternative to learn. Okay, and now for the stakeholders. As far as the government concerns, we should focus on the people affected by today's debate, which are the students and educators. Um, right. And now for our mechanism. The mechanism that government is proposing today is um, to initiate some incentive for online learning for the B40 by providing laptops and free data for the students to learn in a more conducive environment. And with our mechanism, we think that this will give more benefit to the students, as it will help them to learn um, conducively. And now I'm done with my characterization. Let's move to my argumentation. And my argument today lies under the keywords digitalizing education is the root of modernization and civilization. So, firstly, I'll talk about the benefits of online class. Online learning is very convenient because the instructor and classrooms um, online learning is convenient because the instructor and classrooms are available 24/7, 7 days a week, and your only excuse is to not joining online class is you not going online. And online classes, everything is available to you. You can get announcements, you can access notes, review assignments, practice quizzes, discuss questions, and also chat with your fellow students. And you can also study anytime and anywhere you want. Next, you can also, with online classes, you will have a flexible schedule and environment because you choose your own learning environment. It could be your bedroom, your study room, a cafe, or also maybe a gym. And you could listen to your lecture while jogging on your treadmill. And other than that, you do not need to commute to your class, and this saves time because less time is wasted spent on taking the bus or walking to class. And with all the substances I have provided in my speech, it proves to you that why this debate should fall on the side of government. And truly, we care about the students and educators, and we acknowledge, acknowledge them. Lastly, if you think that um, if you think that online learning is better for a progressive society, do stand with side government. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
I now thank the speaker for that speech. I call upon the leader of opposition to continue the debate. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Can you
you
hear
are
me?
loud and clear.
All right. I'll be starting my speech in three, two, one. So, ladies and gentlemen, ever since the pandemic started, we have been using online classes for our education. And I think for these several months and ever since the pandemic started, it has been very eye-opening on how terrible online classes is towards education system. We think that online classes is a failure and it should not be considered as a platform or as a medium for us to consider when teaching students at the end of the day. So what am I going to do in today as the leader of opposition is in this debate? Firstly, I'm going to rebut the arguments given by the side of government and show them the flaws that they have brought up into this debate. And secondly, I'm going to bring several arguments into this debate. Firstly, under the idea of how physical class, like online classes, like reduces the quality of education and why it's very problematic for students to learn through online schooling. And my deputy leader of opposition is going to bring the argument of how Malaysia as a country is not ready for the online schooling in and of itself. So and my third speaker will deconstruct the cases given by the government side and show them why our side wins this debate. Now let's move on to my first task, rebuttals. So now let's look at what the leader, what the prime minister has said in this debate. Firstly, they said that the Malaysia right now is ready for online classes through surveys of like how many people are using Google Classroom and so on. I think that's not a proper way for you to measure the readiness of a system. We think that firstly, online classes are very unstandardized. There's not a standard platform for you to do online schooling. There's Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and it's very jumbled up. And there's no syllabus that's very catered to online classes. So I think it's very problematic for you to assume just because people are using it, people are ready to implement it holistically. We think that there are lots of problems that has to be catered to at the first hand. Now, secondly, they said that through online classes, there are lots of things that you can do. You have online practices, you have quizzes, you can do assessment and so on. The thing is, when you're doing things online, there are a lot of ways that students can take advantage of this. They can look at lecture note, they can cheat, they can find ways to read up search up the answers during the examination themselves. We think that it opens up opportunity for students to take advantage of these online classes and use it badly and cheat during examination. And thirdly, they said that online classes are very flexible. You can learn, learn at your own pace, and you can do it anywhere you want. This is very problematic, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because when you do this sort of thing, when it's very flexible, it allows students to be very it reduces the productivity of education themselves. People would try to learn when they're eating, they want to learn when they're looking at television, and it reduces the quality of education because now they aren't concentrated to whatever they're learning. They're more likely to do things because they're lazy to learn. They would want to do other things to entertain them during learning, and it's going to be less efficient. They're unable to concentrate, and it's going to be less productive, and it harms the education system in and of itself. So I think that's the rebuttal coming from the opposition side. We think that uh, the arguments given by the side of government is very problematic. Now let's move on to the arguments coming from our side. Firstly, we think that online education reduces the quality of education. Now, first level of analysis. Why? Because we think online schooling doesn't develop students holistically. Sure, you can teach the syllabus, your science subject, your mathematics subjects through online classes because you can show them the answer sheets and so on. But the thing is, what you can teach students through online classes is discipline, moral values. You can teach them social, human interaction. You can teach them how to develop good manners and attitude. Those things are something that should be the focus of education. The main goal of education is to not teach science and mathematics. The main goal of education is to develop holistic students who are able to be functional individuals in the society later on in the future. So when you are teaching students through online classes, you are missing out a big portion of education itself. You're able to teach students how to interact with other people. You aren't able to teach them what's good and what's wrong because these things aren't something that you can learn virtually. You have to learn physically. They need on hands experience. When they do something bad, the teachers can advise them or like teach them, school them, and tell them what they are supposed to do. And these things aren't they don't exist in online schooling and so on. And secondly, let's look at students who are in poverty themselves. They don't have accessibility, they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have proper device. They have to share devices with with their siblings and so on. These things are very problematic because it's going to interrupt their education as a whole. And thirdly, why it's going to compromise the quality of education is because there are lack of monitoring for the students. Because students they are able to take advantage of these online classes like how as I've said just now. They would play phones during these classes because you don't have to turn on your camera. There are a lot of ways for students to like play games and like look at YouTube, and when their examinations they just search up the answers online. This is very problematic because there are a lot of holes that they can utilize for their own advantage, and because there's no forms of monitoring, they're going to keep on doing this without any repercussions and so on. So we think that when these things occur, it's going to be very problematic towards the education system as a whole. Because why? Now it's going to hinder the progress of education. They're going to be learning. Yes, sure, they still learn what they are learning at school the same way, but it's not going to be equal. It's going to not be, it reduces its quality. You won't be able it's going to develop students who aren't as bright when you're going to physical classes, and you don't develop them to be individuals who are very who have moral values in and of themselves. So we think that when you're going through online classes, you miss out a large portion of education system, and it's very problematic for the government side to say that the online classes is better than physical classes. So on our side, we think that through physical classes, you're going to have a better and higher quality education system. Firstly, because you develop students holistically, and there are less problems, less technical problems and so on, and the higher level of monitoring from the teachers, and the teachers can give better attention to the students themselves. So I think that in order to have a better, smarter, brighter generation for Malaysia, go with the opposition side. With that, I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition, for that speech. I now call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to give their speech. Here, here. Deputy Prime Minister, can I just get an audio cue that you're here and we'll be starting your speech soon? Okay, I think that's a yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. To see Malaysia standing side by side with any other developed countries such as United States, Japan, and China is one of my aspirations if I become the prime minister in the future. And for the side of opposition to just disregard the idea of online class simply because its limitation and disregarding the benefits that it poses is just absurd. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day abid to a honorable panel of adjudicators, esteemed timekeeper, comrades of government, worthy side of opposition, meticulous timekeeper, not forgetting members of this August House. So today we are still debating on the same controversial issue, which is this House supports online schooling in Malaysia even after COVID-19 is over. So standing as the Deputy Prime Minister, I totally support today's motion. Simply with our stance, digitalizing education is the roots of modernization and civilization. So, standing as the Deputy Prime Minister, the role coming from me is very simple. Which is first, I will respond to the case brought up by the side of opposition by providing rebuttals and also provide one argumentation from our side to prove you why today's debate should fall on the side of government. So, without further ado, let's move to my rebuttal session. So the first level of my rebuttals is that the opposition side only the opposition sides only points out the weaknesses that online classes have posed, but we have already proved to you by my prime minister has already proved to you the benefits that online class has also been given to you. So by the time for you to disregard online classes just because the limitation that it has is, and you are just wasting the benefits that it also can propose, it's just a waste of time. So next, even if so, they point out that Malaysia is not ready. Okay, sure. Even if we are not ready, our mechanism that we are providing will help the students to be ready because you are preparing them to be ready for the future, to be ready for the modernized world. Because you have to concede that the world is getting civilized day by day and the world is getting modernized. So we have to get prepared. And online class is one of the method. How are we going to prepare the students for the holistic development in the future? Yes. Okay, next, they keep on pointing out that the weaknesses of online classes, such as the student can cheat, they can eat during class, they can just take it for granted. Sure, they can do that, and they say that this is simply because of lack of monitoring, and this is because lack of readiness. But we have to accept the fact that online classes just not being initiated 1 week ago, just not being initiated 1 month ago. We have already been through these online classes for some phases, and we are actually evolving. So it's not that we just have online classes a week ago. Monitoring has advanced. So we can just ask the student to necessarily turn on their camera. We can have online proctor during examination in order for us to have a more holistic and more honest learning system. And also, also, I have to point out this one thing. We are not trying to replace online learning, instead of physical education. But we support the idea of online learning, that it can as it can provide benefits for the future. It can provide benefits for the students and also educator in preparing them for the future and the modernized world that we are trying to cater to. So I think that's done with my rebuttals. Let us move to my argumentation, which is the importance of digital awareness for a more progressive Malaysia. So we have to concede the fact that we are moving slowly to IR 4.0, and the idea of IR 5.0 is starting to emerge. So this highlights the importance of why digital awareness in an individual is important, because education is the root of civilization. So with online class being continued, we are giving them more exposure and more preparation. As you say that they are not ready, but they are being ready because of this. We are giving them preparation for the future that awaits on them. So, relating to the status quo, how we are taking education seriously, how we are taking online class seriously, we are already we have to acknowledge that our students, our educators, and our educational system has our own consciousness to education. So why should we just suddenly stop this method because of the limitation that it has proposed to us? Why don't we just look on the good side? Why don't we just look at the good in the best case scenario? So nowadays we can see how Malaysia is now a still a developing country, and just like I say, to see our country standing side by side with other developed countries is the aspiration that we are trying to achieve at the end of the day. So by agreeing with online classes, we are giving them an exposure, we are giving them a digital awareness, so that at the end of the day they know, at the end of the day they will have the urge to strive more, because they have the exposure, they know that they know that we are continuingly progressing, so that with this exposure it can prepare them in the first place. So let's just say, without online classes being initiated in the first place, we never know how dire the need of the students under poverty line on their awareness of digitalization. Yes, the opposition side has pointed out about this. What about the students under poverty line? What about student that doesn't have the necessity to learn online class in a conducive way, right? But our mechanism has already countered to that, because we are providing them free laptops, we are providing them free data, we actually care about the students. We actually care about students, and we're trying to give them a more conducive way of learning by our mechanism. So let's just say, with online learning continuously being implemented, it's supported by our tough mechanism. We are actually giving them hope and preparing them for the upcoming modernized era. So this is what we need for the students. Just imagine, to abolish online classes, to stop it just simply with its limitation, rather to look at the benefits that it also possesses, is such a waste. Next, let's talk about how this digital awareness help them in the near future. So with the like I say, with the equipment of this exposure of online learning, they will have the urge to strive more in the upcoming developed era, as they have already have the basic need of it. So this just prove what is important for them to achieve their full potential. So online learning just not has its limitation; it also have its benefits. So we have to also look at the benefits and try to cater on how we are trying to and how we are trying to progress, so that we can achieve a more civilized society, or a more advanced educational system. You say that with online learning it will reduce the quality of it, but we say that with online learning, with the idea of it, with the idea of it, we can take the benefits that it also propose, with the essence of physical learning, because we didn't say that we are going to replace online learning to physical education. We are just supporting the idea of it to be continuingly uh to be continually initiated at the end of the day. So if you think that you are try if you think you want students and educators and the educational system to be more advanced in Malaysia, stand with the government side. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Hello everyone, our main panel is having some technical issues, so just give him some time to rejoin.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I disconnected right at the end of the DPM speech. Okay, we can continue. I would just like to ask that only the speaker turn on their camera, please, because I'm having a bit of connectivity issues. I'm afraid it would overload the bandwidth if everyone turns on their camera. So I would appreciate if only the speaker that was speaking turns on their camera. Thank you. Let's proceed with Deputy Leader of Opposition. Here. You can start whenever you're ready.
Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good morning to the panels of educators and members of the hall. Today, the government side has once again contradicted themselves. The Deputy Prime Minister had said that the online classes is not good enough and that they do not want to abolish physical classes as a whole. And this itself contradicts with what their mechanism stands for, and it destroys their cases as a whole. And therefore, I would say that we shouldn't take the motion. I'm sorry. Um, Therefore, it destroys the cases as a whole, and therefore we shouldn't take their motion as something that is important. Ladies and gentlemen, I will go on into my rebuttals for the argument for the my rebuttals for the government side is that as the leader of opposition has said, online that's it. As my leader of opposition has said, online classes allow students to take the disadvantages of online classes and make it as their advantages. And this is the reason why physical classes are are more suitable for the students in our generation to undergo. And so I'll move on to my arguments. In the status quo, we know that Malaysia is still underdeveloped in the IT section, and this has caused we don't have we don't have a standardized way of teaching online classes, and this is because we have apps such as Google Classroom, MS Teams, and even Frog, which makes it all jumbled up. And this causes students to not be able to conquer at least one platform of online classes learning. And this reduces the quality of education because students and teachers are very clueless about how to conduct their classes or how to go on with their classes. And therefore, if we treat online classes as, or if we continue online classes after the COVID-19, and we treat it as a trial and error phase, then students from kindergarten to the masters, they will miss out a big portion of their education just because we want to pursue online classes as a new status quo instead of prioritizing physical classes because we feel that we should compete with developed countries in order for us to feel like we need something to prove. And that is what government is pushing. Government is pushing online classes where students are still clueless and teachers have no idea on how to conduct the classes. We were thrown into a situation where we had to
POI,
adapt.
please.
No, sorry. We throw into a situation where we have to adapt, and students are still figuring out till today. And my next argument is that not all of us have a conducive environment at home. Some of us may have problems at home, such as many siblings, and this may cause a riot where we're having classes and we can't focus in our classes. And there's also people that have problematic families, like students that have problematic families. And when they have problematic families, there's also domestic violence that's happening in homes, and physical classes, or I could say students going to school is the only way that they could feel safe, that they could have a place to belong. And that is why we want to push forward physical classes better than online classes. Malaysia as a whole, we are not prepared for online classes because as the government side say that we can provide laptops, we can provide free data to students, but how sure are we that there are this many students that need laptops or Wi-Fi? We can't exactly pinpoint the exact number of students that need laptop and free data for us to provide them with, and this itself um, will affect the education policy. And especially after COVID-19, where the economy is such in a terrible state that I think the government would not would most likely prefer to invest in something that has some feasibility, such as the economy, rather than improving the IT sector, which is just not something we have the professionals to do so. And so I will on to the benefits of the online classes. So the benefits of the online classes is that if you're having trouble learning in classes, you can just raise up your hand and you can ask teachers. But if you're in the online classes, you would feel utterly shamed that if you raised up your hand and answered, then maybe your whole class will see that you don't understand something. And in physical classes, you could ask the teacher after classes if you don't feel comfortable asking in class, or that teachers could also see that if their students aren't paying attention or the students are still clueless about the whole subject in whole, then they will be able to help the students in need. They will be able to go up to the students and ask like, are you doing well? Are you doing okay? Do you understand this certain topic and something do you need me to explain? And these subtle things are the things that what education is made of. It is it is what education stands for. It is helping students when they are in need, and not in online classes where students could go clueless and they couldn't get any go anywhere to ask questions or anything. So with that, I am proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you to the deputy leader of opposition. I now call upon the government whip to continue the debate here.
Before I start, can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. It's extremely sad to see how behind Malaysia is in terms of modernization in comparison to the Western countries, and we believe that online schooling could be one of the solutions to this problem that is happening in status quo today. But before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to the educators and members of the floor. I, as the whip speaker today, will be doing a few things for you today. Firstly, I will be stating rebuttals on our side. And secondly, I will be providing clashes onto and as well as providing why our site provides the better world at the end of the day. So firstly, I'll be stating a few rebuttals coming from our side. So first, the leader of opposition as well as the deputy leader of opposition have been talking about how no sorry the deputy leader of opposition has mentioned that not all students have a conducive place at home to study. For example, problematic families, abusive families, as well as uncomfortable environments to study. But the opposition side has not engaged with us and has not observed what has been stated before by my deputy prime minister as well as my prime minister. We did not say that we would impose 100% of online schooling into our system, but we would simply say we supported the idea and we believe that this other method of learning could be beneficial in terms of the progression of Malaysia's modernization. However, the opposition side did not engage with us. They did not concede to the fact that we have mentioned that before. So on to my next rebuttal. So the deputy leader of opposition has mentioned that teachers and students, as well as the leader of opposition, have mentioned that Malaysia is not ready for complete online online schooling, and that teachers and students are still clueless. But the opposition side is being extremely ignorant and not taking into consideration that online learning has started in March 2020 and has started a while ago. And by now, Malaysia and the students and the teachers have experienced and have developed a sense of IT skills, as well as they know how to carry out classes as well as how to learn online. The opposition side is simply stating the worst case that our world could have. But we believe that the teachers as well as students in Malaysia are capable of adapting to this more modern world, and we believe that with our initiatives that the government has stated, we believe that this can be achieved and a more progressive society can be achieved. For opposition side to simply say that for the opposition side to say that teachers and students are still clueless is extremely absurd and extremely sad to say, because we believe that by now the teachers and students in Malaysia have adapted and are able to improve the quality of education as well as receive a better education, right? So we believe that the assumptions made by the opposition side is extremely ignorant and sad to see. So, thirdly, the deputy leader of the opposition has mentioned about how unsure many students are when getting help, and that when you're in physical classes, you will raise your hand 100% of time. That's simply talking about the best case scenario. They're simply talking about how everyone is brave enough to ask directly in class, and how everyone is able to get their questions answered in physical classes. But they fail to see how online classes are a great way for those who are suffering with social anxiety, who want a longer explanation and want a more detailed answer. So we believe that the opposition side is simply living in their own utopia, where everyone will definitely raise their hand up in class and ask questions and get the answers right away and receive a quality education simply from physical classes. We believe that this is extremely ignorant. So now on to my clashes. So the issue of today's debate, I will be breaking it down to three main issues. And firstly, the dire need for online learning. Second, my second clash will be about limitations of online learning, as well as my third clash would be effectiveness of online learning. So from both sides, we can see that firstly, under the clash of the dire need for online learning, the opposition side has stated that online learning is a failure, and that online schooling is a failure, and that it causes low quality education. But on our side, we believe that that there is a dire need for online learning, especially in today's day and age, where we want to become a more progressive society, a more IT savvy society, a world that is more modern and progressive in that term. Secondly, about limitations of online learning, the opposition side has failed to engage with us with what we have said before. We, as the government side, we provide. We have said that we've provided with our mechanism. We have provided ways that we will give we will give laptops and necessary gadgets to those under the poverty line, and that the fact that the government, the opposition side is only talking about how it hinders progressive society. But on our side, we believe that despite, yes, we concede to the fact that there are a few limitations here and there, but we believe that it is still better to get the exposure, and we believe that online learning is one of the ways for education to progress, especially in this day and age, right? So lastly, on the question of effectiveness of online learning, right? So the opposite from both sides, the opposition side has mentioned that it is ineffective and that will be unproductive, and we will will multitask while learning. But on our side, sure, there will be some students who do that. But we believe that you are simply talking about the students who do not care. But we believe that most students do care about their grades. Most students will take at least will have the effort to um, to gain an quality education, right? Whether it be online or physical. So with that being said, for so uh, like restating our stance, we believe that digitalization education is the root of modernization and civilization. And therefore, if you want a world where progression and modernization is prioritized and education can be gained in any way, and you can grow holistically as a person and a student as well as a Malaysian in general, then go for side government. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Government Whip. I now call upon Opposition Whip to give their speech. Here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. So, good morning to the panel of judges. Today, I would like to tell all of you why side opposition has clearly won today's debate, and the four reasons why are: A, side government failed to characterize the burden and stakeholders clearly. Second, B, they failed to provide a plan B. C, they failed to see reality. And D, they destroy the youth's future. So, moving on to my rebuttals. The PM previously said that they would initiate online learning by providing laptops and free data to those students below the poverty line. Well, even if they were provided with these laptops and data, as state government had failed to clearly characterize their stakeholders, like their students, generalizing students as all of them being in urbanized areas. What about those in rural areas, those with less connectivity? These are the things that state government should have taken into consideration. The connectivity, those students living in rural areas, those who have no access to internet, even if they were given these laptops and data, will they be able to utilize it? So that's the first question. So the second question would be, state government failed to recognize and take into consideration the demographical and locality factors that is clearly obvious around them in status quo. So they really completely disregard these factors. So what side government had to prove to us today was what were the benefits, as they had mentioned, what were the benefits of online learning towards these students. And as I quote, the Prime Minister said that with online learning, they have a more flexible schedule, so on and so forth. They can, and this I quote, listen to your lecturer while running on the treadmill. Madam, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask you, is this the type of quality education, the study and learning etiquette and manner that we want to instill in today's generation, in the youth generation? Food for thought. So moving on to my second rebuttal was that they failed to actually explain more on how online schooling will affect these educators in terms of their method of teaching, their standardized how are they going to standardize their teaching, their platforms? As what my LO had mentioned earlier, they completely disregarded my LO's argument. So moving on to my second rebuttal, which was coming from DPM. He said that we are totally disregarding the benefits of their side. However, we concede to the fact, yes, that there are benefits, but the cons outweighs the pros. So, and the only benefit that I heard coming from side government was that they provided flexibility for the students to study at their own pace, for them to really understand at their own pace, and they kept on rehashing about their mechanism, but their mechanism to us, it was just a one liner. Yes, provide laptops, provide data, but is it feasible in this situation, taking into consideration all stakeholders? So side government, so moving on to my clashes. The first, I have four clashes, which are: the first, which site provides better quality education; second, which site caters to all classes of the students; thirdly, which site provides better monitoring; four, which site progresses more. As site government was fighting for, and I quote, they care about the students and educators. So first clash, which site provides quality education? As I had mentioned beforehand, site government had to prove to us how they can minimize the flaws, as mentioned by my LO, which were cheating online, opening notes while sitting for quizzes or exams online.
POI,
And
please.
DPM had already stated that they will necessarily on cameras and so on and so forth, but we have to concede to the fact that students are humans, and we cannot control what humans do. Yes, we can tell them to necessarily on cameras, but they won't necessarily on cameras.
POI,
So
please. Even though in physical classes, you cannot control the student. You can tell them to just sit on the chair. If they don't want to sit on the chair, you cannot control them. So why the need of physical classes?
okay, so the need of physical classes is one. As you see, you did not listen to my LO. My LO clearly stated that there is two-way communication involved for better education. So in our side, two-way communication is more efficient, is quicker, and it's more effective compared to your side. All right. So to my moving on to pulling back side government into reality. So they were pushing for what we call more civilized and modernized society. However, we on site opposition provide holistic education, which provides better quality education, and so we won that first clash. So moving on to the second clash, which is which side caters to all classes of the students. I had already included this in my rebuttals earlier, which side government really felt to take into consideration all stakeholders, including those students from who really are in the rural areas, who are in urban areas. They assuming feasibility, they did not really engage with our arguments. They completely disregard the demographical and locality factors. And thirdly, which site provides monitoring better? So our site provides monitoring better, since physical classes provides an overview of all the students in a place, rather centralized place, rather than in other separate places. So our inside government's base case scenario, students will cheat sleep during classes and are not proactive and not all rounded, whereas on our worst case scenario, we provide more transparency and we provide better quality education. We cater to all classes of the students, and we provide monitoring better. So if you want our youth to succeed in the future, a better Malaysia, please side with side opposition. With that, I am proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Opwit, for that speech. I now call upon opposition reply. Continue the debate. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I will start my speech in three, two, one. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think this debate is already enough to prove to the House why online classes or online platforms are a very problematic platform. Even equipped with good devices and good Wi-Fi, there's still lots of problem that still exist. Not taking into account the individuals who don't have proper access to Wi-Fi, have slow internet connection, and have slow devices, which will hinder their progress of learning as a whole. So I think right now we need to be able to see clearly and open our eyes and no longer live in a fantasy. The government side is living in a utopia where they believe that if we were to implement online education, we are going to succeed and become a very tech savvy, tech literate country, which would be able to utilize technology very efficient pace. We think that is very problematic because on our side, we believe that Malaysia is not ready for technology or online classes. Like how my DLO has stated just now, Malaysia is very far behind in the IT sector. Even after months of using online classes, online platforms, several lecturers still don't know how to share their screen and show their answers on the screen for the students. We think that is very problematic and is very slow progress, and we don't think that it is ready. So now let's look at the question, the main goal of this debate, which is which side fulfills the role of the education system better. We think that our side won on answering this question. Why? Because through physical classes, we'll be able to educate students better, and we would be able to develop these students holistically. What does the arguments given by our side on how we would be able to create holistic students and how these things couldn't be learned through online classes are left unresponded, and we think that this argument stands, and they haven't responded, or like they didn't rebut this argument, which makes us win the idea of how we provide a better education system. And secondly, the idea of how there are limitations towards online classes, which they only simply answered by we would provide useful, a good device and good Wi-Fi connection. We think that even if there were good Wi-Fi connection and so on, the even like how we are using like devices which are already good enough, there are still problems like there's technical problems, there's lag, there's connection problems. These problems cannot be catered maybe in after 100 years in the future. They're living in a utopia where if we're doing it instantly after COVID-19, we're able to destroy this, like abolish this problem as a whole. Especially considering the idea that COVID-19 is no longer a major problem. In the maybe in like several 2 or 3 years, if we were to implement these online classes, we would definitely destroy this education system as a whole, because people would fail to understand, fail to learn, and it would create a society that is very far behind in the education system. What our side believe is that we should always focus on the physical classes because we've already been very used to it. We think that online classes is something that is very abstract. Maybe in like 100, 200 years in the future, we will be ready, but not after COVID-19, not for Malaysia, not right now. So we think that in order to win this debate, we answer the questions better. We provide a better education system. We show to the house why it is very illogical and illegitimate, it's very irrational for us to pursue the online classes right after COVID-19. But what the opposition side fail to do is get open their eyes and live in the reality where it's not going to be sunshine and butterflies just because you do online classes and we will succeed as a nation as a whole. It's very false on their side. We think that we want this debate, and we were very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Op Reply. Before I move on to Gov Reply, can I just confirm who was doing Op Reply just now? Can I have your name?
Was the LO Adli.
Okay, thanks. Okay, without further ado, let's move on to Gov Reply to end the debate. Here.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we
Alright.
can.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. Welcome again, and we meet again to the second arena of my speech. So in my reply speech, I will be just doing two things. First, why we are right. Second, why they are wrong. And third, why we win today's debate. So first of all, why they are wrong. First, they only point out the weaknesses that online classes the online classes pose to us. What can we see from this? The opposition side only see bad in things. We consider the fact that online learning has its own weaknesses, but we also consider the fact physical learning also has their own weaknesses, and we acknowledge that. And still, we want the benefits that physical classes is trying to possess. So that is why we are going for both physical and online classes. So and also that's justify the reason why we still want to support the idea of continuing online classes. Okay. Then second, they are living in their own wonderland. They say that we are still unready for these online classes. You know, the fact that online classes has already initiated in March 2020, which is a long period of time. We think that that is a period of time for us to be ready for this online learning. A lot of initiative has been done by lots of parties, and lots of methods have been giving out by experts to cater to how to make sure that online classes can reach its full potential. We say that so we think that by having this on classes now and continually implemented it when it's over is a good thing, and we can also provide a better education because we are trying to adopt the benefits that it can propose to us. So this also relates to our status quo, which is with the readiness, like you say that they are not ready, but we already say that Malaysia is one of the top 51 country that cater to online learning more. So they are ready, and they are ready, and we are using their readiness so that they can achieve their full potential at the end of the day. So you say that they are human. They say that they are human. You cannot control them with online classes. You cannot do any obligation. Just same goes with physical classes. You can do obligation with them, and there's no point in doing any of this method. So with using online classes, with the obligation and limitation that we have already introduced for the sake of education, we are trying to propose a better quality at the end of the day, because we are trying to see the goods in whatever we are trying to see. There is a crystal in a full of thorny sea. So next, the opposition side is coward. They see a problem and they disregard that problem and trying to abolish it. Just abolish it at the just abolish it. So simply because of its weakness. But the government side, we are trying to see what's the benefit that we can see from online classes. And instead of just abolishing it, we're trying to improvise it, and we're trying to improvise it, and we're trying to improvise it. And this is what we want to achieve at the end of the day. It's not just we're trying to. It's not that we just having the benefits of physical education. We're also trying to adopt the benefits that online classes can offer to our students and teachers. So that is why we say that is why we cater more to the student and teacher. We care more about to the students and the teacher. And why I say they call it, because they see a problem, they remove it away. On the side of government, we see a problem, we are trying to see the good in it, we are trying to improvise what is the lack of it, and that is what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day. That is the definition of quality education, because we know that online education has a limitation, and we're trying to see the benefits so that we can have a more progressive world at the end of the day. Because we have to concede the fact the world is modernizing, the world is digitalizing, and the society, the educational system has also need to be strive for, because this is the root of civilization. So if you looking forward for the if so this debate goes to educational system. They are trying to strive more and more at the end of the day, and this debate goes to teachers and students who want their educational system to be more quality at the end of the day. With that, I rest my case. Thank you. Never been proud to propose.
Thank you, Gov Reply, for that speech. So that marks the end of the debate. I don't know if you guys have any specific instructions on what to do now, but since I'm the chair in this room, and I can deliberate with my panelists, I would request for everyone to stay right here in this room. I will be deliberating with my panelists, and we will be discussing what we thought of the debate and so on. And we will be back here in latest by 10:47, I would say, give or take. Yeah, just give us some time. We'll be right with you.